If I started at 30% body fat again and my goal was to get to 15% body fat with visible abs, I would follow this simple 5-step process. Step number 1, find your reason why. Ever since I was a kid, right, I was always on the chubbier side. I had like no confidence whatsoever, and I was actually afraid to make eye contact with people. I remember always thinking to myself just how better my life would be if I got in better shape. Just finally being able to walk outside without feeling conscious of the way that I looked. So one day I decided to sign up to a gym in my area, but I had like no idea what I was doing right. But I was determined to make something happen. And the night before, I had spent like hours and hours just watching these different videos to try and remember some exercises. Now, the first 2 weeks, they went alright. I was going to the gym somewhat consistently and I was learning new things. But for some reason, my motivation just slowly started to fade away. I started procrastinating like more and more every single time. Some days I even decided to skip the workout just so I could stay at home and play video games. And I remember just thinking to myself, why is this happening all of a sudden? You wanted to make a change, right? But why are you not doing the work that's necessary to make it happen? And I just kept talking down to myself more and more until I realized the problem. I didn't have a strong reason why I wanted to change in the first place. For me at the time, I just wanted to look good for the sake of looking good, right? There was like no deep reasons behind it. And that was why I was struggling. Once I started to think about this, everything completely changed for me. So I want you to do the same thing like I did. Really think to yourself, why do I want to change in the first place? When I took some time to really think about this deeply, I came up with multiple reasons. I wanted to be more confident. I wanted to be happy with the way that my body looked. And I wanted more attention from girls. These are the reasons why I wanted to change. And I didn't want to look good just for the sake of looking good. If you're being honest with yourself, there is always deeper reasons behind it. Once I figured this out, it became like so much easier to actually stay consistent with the work that was necessary, to change my body. And the motivation that I lost earlier, it just slowly came back and it was stronger than like ever before. Step number 2, create a healthy eating environment. Now, what do I exactly mean by this? Go into your kitchen and look through your cupboards. Is there like loads of sugary snacks and junk food in there? This is a bigger problem than you think, and let me explain why. When I was first trying to lose weight, right, this was the mistake that I did. I had like all these different foods so easy to access in my home. So whenever I walked into the kitchen, I was tempted to eat them like every single time that I saw them. Sooner or later I would give in and I just ate the food again and again and again. And I was stuck in this cycle for months and months and months at a time without making like any progress to my body. I tried to eat better quality foods, but in the back of my mind, I just knew I had these snacks easy to access whenever I wanted. So everything just became so much harder for me to stay consistent. I don't know about you, but for me personally, when I'm bored, right, I just tend to eat food for the sake of eating it. So the better option for me was to not have it around me like whatsoever. So what I want you to do is to start cleaning up your eating environment. Get rid of all these processed foods and replace them with better options like fruits instead. And focus on eating real food as much as possible, and it's gonna be like 10 times easier for you to stick to your goals. Trust me when I say this. I personally like to keep it so basic when it comes to food. So I eat things like chicken, meat, fish, rice, potatoes, and all those things. There are like hundreds and hundreds of different ways to prepare the same kind of ingredients so they taste good every single time. When you start to eat real food and not this processed stuff anymore, you don't even feel the need to snack as much, and creating better eating habits becomes like so much easier. If you want my help on a one-to-one basis with transforming your body, just like I have right here, I make sure that you're held accountable along the way, and just DM me on Instagram. I'll put my username on the screen right here, but also in the description. So before you start doing a crash diet or doing super intense cardio, start with cleaning up your eating environment first. And trust me when I say this, it will make a massive difference. Step number 3, get into a calorie deficit. Just by improving your eating habits, you will make some good progress, but eventually the fat loss will slow down. And that's when we have to create what's called a calorie deficit. What this basically means is that you give your body less calories than it needs to maintain the current weight that you have right now. And when I say eating less calories, I don't mean that you just have to eat, salads and drink water like every single day. I don't know about you, but for me personally, I don't like tracking calories like whatsoever. I just find it annoying, and once you do it, it's like in the back of your mind like 24/7. The approach that I took was to just focus on eating more protein in general. Whenever I have a meal, I like to cover the majority of my plate in some kind of protein, and then I leave the rest to carbohydrates and some vegetables. Now, why I focus on eating more protein in general is not only because it helps to build more muscle, but most importantly, comparing protein to carbohydrates and fats, protein is the one thing that's going to keep you full for the longest of all of them. To know if we're actually making progress and being in a calorie deficit, we have to start tracking our weight. And I said I'm not tracking calories. But tracking your weight is so much easier, and let me explain how. Just every morning after you've gone to the bathroom, you weigh yourself and then you write down that weight in the notes on your phone. I'll put a picture on the screen right here so you see what it looks like. You just have the date and then you have the weight next to it. That is pretty much it. The goal that I was aiming for, and I recommend you to do as well, is to lose 2 pounds per week. By taking this slower approach, we make sure that we stay consistent. We don't make any drastic changes and rush the process. Here's my advice to you, and I want you to follow this because I did this mistake myself. Don't focus on your goals in its entirety, but rather just days instead. Let's say you want to get to 50% body fat and lose, let's say, 30 pounds, right? Realistically, that is going to take you a couple of months. So that's why you do this instead. In order for you to not feel overwhelmed by this huge goal that you have, right? Focus on doing the right things on a daily basis instead. And sooner or later, the months will have passed without you even thinking about it because you just focused on one day at a time, and the results will just come as long as you stay consistent. Step number 4, increase your daily activity. Alright, so you've created better eating habits and you're putting yourself into a calorie deficit. Now, doing this alone will get you good results. But come on, be honest with yourself. Why get good results when you can get great results, right? By adding a daily activity on top of this. That is the complete game changer. Now, what I mean specifically with this is just moving your body more and just exercising in general. I personally go to the gym and then I do some walking on the side as well. Why I combine the gym and the walking at the same time is because if we just do the walking, moving our body more, we will make some good progress. But here's the thing, we're not developing any muscle, right? And that's where the gym comes in. Because if we just do the walking and don't do any resistance training whatsoever, we are just gonna end up skinny instead. Come on, let's be honest with ourselves here. If we have the option to lose fat and build some muscle at the same time, then of course we're gonna take it, right? My recommendation when it comes to the gym is to go minimum 3 days a week. But if that sounds like way too much, then just start slow and work your way up, 1 day a week, 2 days a week, and so on. I'll put a simple 3-day workout plan on screen right now that you can follow to get started or simply take inspiration from. Now, when it comes to moving your body more, why I chose walking is because it's easy to do, it's not stressful on your body, and most importantly, you actually get some good results as long as you stay consistent. When it comes to the walking, I recommend you to start with 30 minutes a day. And we can just slowly work our way up as we make more progress. Another easy thing that you can do to increase the amount of fat that you burn is to just be more aware of it while you're outside. And let me give you an example so you know what I mean. Let's say you have the option of taking the elevator or taking the stairs. But just taking the stairs, you're making the fat loss so much faster. Now, of course, you gotta be reasonable with this. Let's say you gotta go up 10 floors with the elevator, right? Then maybe it's not optimal to take the stairs every time. Go up 5 floors with the elevator and then you take the stairs for the rest. Small things like this make some massive difference in the long run. Step number 5, be patient with results, impatient with action. Now, I want to save the most important part for last. You have to be patient with getting the results, but impatient when it comes to taking action. Look, here's the truth. This is gonna take some time. You didn't get out of shape in just a couple of weeks, so you're not gonna look your best in a couple of weeks either. And that is something that you just have to accept. Hold yourself accountable and see this as a lifetime investment. Because be honest with yourself, you wanna look good and be healthy for as long as possible, right? Focus on doing the right things one day at a time, and sooner or later the months will have passed and your body trust me when I say this, will look completely different from when you first started. Again, if you want my help on a one-to-one basis where I make sure that you get the results that you want and you're held accountable along the way, then just DM me on Instagram. I'll put my username on the screen right here, but also in the description. If you want more helpful content just like this, then click and watch this video next.